My name is Marcus Lamar, and in this episode of Martin All Over the Map, I'm here in Alabama, where Dr. King was thrust into the national spotlight during the Montgomery Bus Boycott. I want to take you all on a journey to places that are synonymous with Dr. King's life and legacy. Dr. King led a symbolic 54-mile march from Selma to Montgomery. Let that sink in, 54 miles, protesting the killing of Jimmy Lee Jackson and demanding black people have the right to vote everywhere. And before I leave Alabama, I'll also visit where Dr. King wrote his famous letter from Birmingham jail, which brought attention to America's most segregated city at the time. So, while I take you on this journey through Alabama's historical landmarks, be sure to pay attention because you won't want to miss it. I'm standing in front of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church. This is the same church where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. served as Reverend and pastor from 1954 to 1960.
So I want to turn your attention to this subject, loving your enemies. It's so basic to me because it is a part of my basic philosophical and theological orientation.
During that same time in 1955, Rosa Parks, a 42-year-old African-American woman, was on her way home from work. Rosa was tired, but she was instructed to give up her seat to a white passenger on the bus and refused. As a result, she was arrested and jailed.
When I refused to move, he had me arrested, put in jail.
And the bus driver, was he very violent? Or?
No, he wasn't. He just called the policeman when I refused to stand up.
And what was the attitude of the police?
Well, they questioned me about why I refused to give up the seat, and when I told them I didn't believe I should have to give up the seat, they told me I was under arrest.
That moment in time sparked the Montgomery Bus Boycott, and this church that I'm standing in front of served as a backbone for that movement. Now you might be asking yourself, what did the boycott look like? What exactly did they do to protest the injustices and inequities they were facing? Imagine walking up to 8 miles a day, to school, to the bank, to work, or even to a supermarket. That's what people in Montgomery were doing to protest the injustices they were facing. Now, fortunately for Rosa Parks and others, the boycott proved to be an effective strategy. Once black people decided to stop riding the bus for an entire year, the Montgomery City bus lines took a huge economic hit, losing 30,000 to 40,000 fares per day. Now, what the boycott proved is that when black people come together and unite and mobilize for a common agenda, they can affect real change. The boycott also provided a blueprint for other grassroots demonstrations, which would eventually spring up in the 1960s, the same decade that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. became one of the greatest civil rights icons we've ever seen. In 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference started something called Project C. Now, Project C was an initiative aimed at ending racial segregation in Birmingham, Alabama. Unfortunately, the initiative was met with resistance because members of the Ku Klux Klan, aka the KKK, as well as other terrorist organizations used explosives as an intimidation tactic against African Americans. On April 10th, a local court circuit judge ruled that there would be no forms of protest or demonstrations, no matter how peaceful they were. Just 2 days later, on April 12th, Dr. King was arrested for the 13th time in his life and jailed. And while he spent time in the Birmingham jail, he crafted his now famous letter from Birmingham, which has gone on to be an iconic piece of history. While Dr. King was committed to forms of nonviolence, he was met with obstacles from the legal system every step of the way.
I know you're asking today, how long will it take? Somebody's asking, how long will prejudice blind the visions of men? I come to say to you this afternoon, however difficult the moment, yes, sir, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, no, because truth crushed earth will rise again. Yes, sir. How long? Not long. Yes, sir. Because no lie can live forever. Yes, sir.
When Dr. King spent the week in Birmingham jail, his communication to the outside world had been cut off. But that didn't stop him from conveying his thoughts. Dr. King wrote the famous letter from Birmingham jail on newspaper, scratch paper, and even toilet paper. The letter was 21 pages long and 7,000 words, and it stressed the importance of nonviolence while calling people to action. The letter also called out white moderates and white churches for not doing enough to support the equality movement. Now, the letter from Birmingham jail was a pivotal moment in Dr. King's legacy, and it popularized the phrase, "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere."
All the civil rights leaders, for various reasons, refuse or can't take a stand or have to go along with the administration. That's their business. But I must say tonight that I know that justice is indivisible. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
As I reflect on Dr. King's letter from Birmingham jail, I have several thoughts that are running through my mind. One is, where there's a will, there's a way. I'm trying to put myself in Dr. King's shoes. Think about it. Dr. King was in a small cell. His communication to the outside world had been cut off. He'd been arrested for the 13th time in his life, all because he simply wanted better, all because he wanted more for people. Dr. King's perseverance is ultimately what shined through in his life, and the letter from Birmingham jail was not just an exemplary document because of its words, it was because of the message that it was promoting. Not only did it have an intended effect historically, but it encouraged others to join the movement and the fight for equality and justice. On March 21st, 1965, Dr. King led thousands of activists, both black and white, on a 54-mile journey from Selma to Montgomery. Now, once they got to Montgomery, the march ended here at the state capitol, where Dr. King would deliver his famous speech, "Our God is marching on."
The wanton release of their known murderers will not discourage us. We're on the move now.
Yes, sir.
Like an idea whose time has come.
Yes, sir.
Not even the marching of mighty armies can halt us.
Yes, sir.
We're moving to the land of freedom.
Yes, sir.
The march from Selma to Montgomery was not uncommon or unheard of. In fact, it had happened twice before in history. But one of the things that the march produced was Voting Rights Act of 1965, a piece of legislation that enfranchised black people to vote in this country, as well as mobilized them politically. As a result of all the marches and protests, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 was passed, which banned discrimination in voting on the basis of sex, race, and color.
And we are not about to turn around.
Yes, sir.
We're on the move now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, we're on the move, and no wave of racism can stop us.
Yes, sir.
The burning of our churches will not deter us.
Yes,
The
sir.
bombing of our homes will not dissuade us.
Yes, sir.
The beating and killing of our clergymen and young people will not divert us.
Yes, sir.
I want to thank you all for joining me in Alabama as I spent time visiting some of the places that helped shape and mold Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s life and legacy. Now, as I wrap up my stay here, I want you all to reflect on some of the places I visited, like where Dr. King wrote his famous letter from a Birmingham jail, and where he led the iconic march from Selma to Montgomery. My name is Marcus Lamar, and I'm signing off from in front of the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church here in Montgomery.
How long? Not long. How long? Because you shall reap what you sow.
Yes, sir.
How long? Not long.
How long?
Truth forever on the scaffold, wrong forever on the throne.
Yes, sir.
Yet that scaffold sways the future.
Yes.
Behind the dim unknown standeth God within the shadow, keeping watch above his own. How long? Not long. Because the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.
Yes, sir.
How long? Not long.
Not long.
because mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.